I'm going to start right here for you, Baldy. We have talked about this throughout the offseason that, and I believe that Cortland and Jaylen Waddle will both have 1,000 yards this year. What do you expect from the tandem of those two this year?
Pretty much that. I mean, Waddle's going to help this team out a lot. I think he's going to help out in the running game. I think he's going to give him a deep threat. I think it's going to be somebody that you have to pay attention to. I think it was a big signing. And so, it should help Cortland out. I mean, I think, you might get the number 2 corner on Cortland now. I mean, there's different ways to defend, a good tandem of receivers. But I think both those guys have a chance. They're going to throw the football. They're going to be a passing team. We'll see what Davis Webb does. But I think both of them are capable of going over 1,000, like your point.
Yeah, I'm curious what you think about Jaylen Waddle in particular. Talking about that in that top 100 list. He didn't make it last year. You have a guy like Tedero McMillan who just barely makes the cut. As we try to figure out who's going to get on that top 100 list and who isn't, I think Jaylen Waddle might kind of be that dividing line.
Yeah, I mean, he could be there. I mean, there's no question that he has ability and he's had some good years, of where he could squeeze into that top 100. It's a possibility right now. That list is, it's a pretty subjective. I've been a part of some of those interviews and, grading and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, it's they make a list because we all like a list, but he's a legitimate top 100 player, especially if they really feature him, where he's excellent after the catch and he can run away from a lot of defenses. So he's got a chance to put up some good numbers there in Denver.
Baldy, yesterday we were talking about Broncos second-year players and which ones we think have the best chance to kind of break out this year. Curious your thoughts. I'll rattle off, Jade Barron, RJ Harvey, Savion Jones, who could have an expanded role, Q Robinson, who looked good, in his opportunities. Who do you think is a guy that is most primed to break out from that group?
Well, I'd like to say Jade is, but is he going to crack the lineup like he couldn't last year? I mean, is Jaquan your slot? Is Riley Moss, opposite Surtain? He might be in a reserve role unless there's an injury or something like that. So, to say he could break out, it's possible, but he's got to stay on the field, got to get on the field, and maybe there's a battle at the left corner position or in the slot. And if there is, and if he wins the battle, then he could break out. RJ has a possibility. Usually guys, if they're going to make a jump in the league, it's going to be between the first and the second year. After they understand what it's all about, they understand the system. Normally, if a guy's going to break out, it's going to be between the first and the second year. And so we'll see how much more comfortable he is. I mean, you go out and you draft Jonah Coleman. Is that the battle right there behind J.K. Dobbins for this, running back number 2? And if it is are you going to get enough work if he beats out Coleman, for that position, or does Coleman take the job? So there's competition there between those two guys right now.
And Baldy, I want to ask you just right about Jonah Coleman, who you brought up there. He's probably has the most excitement from Broncos country surrounding him. Probably helps that he's a running back, and that is a position that can have an immediate impact. But when you watched him at Washington, it seems like he's NFL ready right now. And we know running backs can have an immediate impact. Is that a guy that you could see having a pretty big impact on this team, even with JK and RJ, or because of that room, do you expect more of a slower season for him as a rookie?
I'm good friends and work with Maurice Jones-Drew. And I think he coached Jonah when he was a kid. He thought he was the best running back in the draft. He's the one that first put me on to him back in, maybe March or whatever. And so I studied him pretty good. He's got everything it takes. Low center of gravity, powerful, good receiver. He's got everything it takes, to go take that position, maybe even become the starter. Now, the college game is totally different than the NFL game. So we got to see what happens. They've got a pretty good list of running backs right there that are all competing. But you'd really like to have running back 1 and 2, decided by the time you get to September. So he's got everything it takes to be really good in this league. It doesn't mean it's going to happen right away, but I feel like they drafted a guy that has, pretty good upside right now.
Q Robinson is another one of those second-year players who could make a jump. Obviously, like all the tools are there. He has the sack in the playoff game last year. And with the just kind of questions over Jonathan Cooper at the moment, it seems like at least for a stretch of the season, the Broncos are going to need an edge rusher to step up, and it could be the whole thing. How do you see that formula kind of working when you look at Nick Bonito, Q Robinson, Jonah Ellis? Like, is that enough in a top three to make a run?
Well, the other, obviously between Zach and Nick, they're going to collapse a lot of pockets right there. Losing John Franklin Myers, there's guys that can step into that. Obviously, they moved up to and gave up a lot to get Tyler Onyedem from Texas A&M, so they think pretty highly of him. It's a good group, Savion. I want to see what he does in year 2, and what he can do. They've got there's a bunch of third-round picks right there that you just mentioned with Jonah, and so that's a pretty high pick. To add depth to your defensive line. I'd like to be that rusher opposite, Zach and Nick right now. I mean, you're going to get a lot of collapsed pockets, a chance to, like Coop did last year, to get 8 or 9 sacks, whatever he had. That's a pretty nice position to be in when a lot of these guys are getting the work done up front.
What's it like when you're like talking running backs and then you just get to talk to Maurice Jones-Drew about who he likes, or insert any NFL Hall of Famer that you work alongside?
Maurice is just a unique cat. Like, I got him into traveling. He's traveling the world now, man. He gives me props for that. But he coached a lot of these kids growing up. He coaches his own kids right now. He's tied to the Jacksonville program. He's tied to UCLA program closely. He lives in the Bay Area. He sees a lot of these kids coming up through the programs, whether it's 9-on-7 or, flag, whatever it is. And so he gets, I remember, like, there's been a bunch of guys that he kind of got me onto early on in their careers before they came out. And just because of the background and just the football hotbed that the Bay Area is for youth sports, he sees a lot of these kids before anybody ever knows about them. So I lean on him, and he's just got to, you can't, if you have any issue with Maurice Jones-Drew, that issue's with yourself. Like, that guy has no enemies in this world.
My only issue with him is that he was about to commit to CU and then he committed to UCLA instead.
All right. Well, he's a Bruin through and through, man. That's not going to change.
Baldy, speaking of like your great national perspective that you've got, I want to ask you, where does Bo Nix fit in terms of the quarterbacks in the NFL? When you think of Bo, what other quarterbacks do you think of when you think of like, yeah, that's Bo's tier as of right now going into year 3?
Well, he's like, outside of the freak injury at the end of the playoff game, he's been healthy. And so how many of these guys start every game, and help a team to 14-win season? How many guys? I mean, you go Jordan Love, you go through a lot of different guys in this league that are on similar paths or, got there a little bit before him. You look at Caleb and what he's doing right now. He's in that category with Caleb. I mean, you could look at their stats and get all hung up on stats, but ultimately it's about winning and getting your team to the playoffs. He's done that 2 years in a row. You could say, okay, he's had a great defense. He's had this, he's had that. He's had stability in the offensive line. Oh, that's true. None of these guys do it by themselves. Everybody, like, if I had to build a team, before I even think about my quarterback, I need my offensive line to be strong, and I want to be able to run the football. And when you could do those things, your quarterback is only going to benefit. If you throw in a defense that can lead the league in sacks and, could do some of the things that they did a year ago, your quarterback is going to benefit. But ultimately, he's got to be got to line up. He's got to stay healthy. Caleb has done that. Jaden Daniels was the rookie of the year, Bo's year, and then he gets hurt last year. I got to put Bo up there just because of his health and the fact that he's available week in, week out. And, I don't think he's had the greatest cast to throw the ball to. I don't think the tight end position is a strong position. We'll see what Evan Ingram does. We'll see what the guys they drafted do. We'll see what the addition of Jaylen Waddle can do. All those things can help your quarterback, but they're going to bring back one of the few teams in this whole league that are going to bring back the same 5 starting offensive linemen. And so that's a credit to the organization that they've identified these guys. They've been able to keep them healthy across the board, Bowles, Powers, Wattenberg, the mighty Quinn, McGlinchey. I mean, that only helps your quarterback. And so, is he a top 10 quarterback? Probably, just because of his health and the fact that, he can, and he won a lot of games last year, and he's gotten his team to the playoffs his first 2 years.
We'll sign up for it. And Baldy, we'll end on that note. And to your point, before Bo got hurt in this last playoff game, he was the only starting quarterback that did not miss a game since the start of 2024. So obviously comes that caveat of missing the AFC Championship game, but you're spot on about his health.
Last thing, we know you're locked in on the World Cup. Who's going to score for the U.S. tonight?
I would say Polinsky. I think he's got a chance. He got healthy last week. His calf got better. I think he should be in a good position against Bosnia-Herzegovina tonight. I will all be watching.
I like it.
Thanks, Baldy.
I love it. The legend,
Okay.
Brian Baldinger. Baldy, we look forward to talking to you next week.
Yep, you got it, guys. Take care, man.
The man, the myth, the legend, Brian Baldinger joining us on the Xfinity call-in line. Xfinity, imagine that.